I joined the army at 16, so I left school straight into the army. It was kind of like something I'd wanted to do for quite a while. So I'd gone behind my mum's back, went up to Scotland, did the selection thing, and came home and I was like, I'm joining the army, mum. So I had to grow up really quickly. I went off and I grew up super fast, and I think it molded me into a man like very quickly. So
Yeah. What impact would you say that had on you mentally, just not being able to really live out your childhood?
so very early in my career, I went through something quite bad, and from that moment on, it it really shaped me and it put me into like a really negative mindset. I felt a lot of guilt, a lot of worry, struggled with sleep, um, and it kind of impacted me for quite a long time, and it still impacts me to this day. Um, and so trying to navigate those hard times has been quite tricky.
Do you mind if I ask what happened?
Yeah, a friend of mine had a really bad accident out there, subsequently lost his life, and I was there, I dealt with it, and yeah, it shaped me big time. I felt a lot of guilt that I couldn't do anything, to prevent it or, to save his life, and that that hurts. That really hurts. So moving forward in my career, anytime something bad would happen, I would instantly feel the guilt from that event, even though they wasn't connected. But it would bring back that guilt of not being good enough, and you know, kind of not accepting the fact that I was good enough.
Yeah, yeah. What happened to him?
He was crushed by a vehicle, and so yeah, it was traumatic, very traumatic. Yeah, he was crushed by a vehicle, and I was one of the first people there, and we did everything we could, and it nothing was good enough. So subsequently, the doctors that did arrive said that he died instantaneously, and there was nothing we could have done. So
Even after hearing the news that he died instantaneously, why do you think you put so much blame on yourself?
I think because I was young and I was fresh to that place of work, and I just hold myself to high standards, and because I was there, I just felt a lot of guilt. There was a little bit of bullying that went on, some snide remarks of, you didn't try hard enough. And when someone says that, it 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 does stick with you, even though you did your best. It sticks with you, and it stuck with me for a very long time. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Talk to me about the impact all of that had on you, after the situation.
So lots of like sleep. I couldn't sleep very well. Just a massive, overwhelming fear of just never being good enough, never being able to perform well enough, never being able to do a job if it was needed to be done. And that went on throughout my career. If I ever came across something traumatic, I would instantly revert back to that like former self of not feeling good enough. Even though, I could perform really well and I could do it, it was the aftermath of each event. And I'd always revert back to that kind of first instance of could I have done more? When in theory, sometimes you can't do more, you can do what you can do, and that, it's good enough because you've done the best you can do, but in other people's eyes, it's never good enough. And so kind of navigating that throughout my career and moving forward in life, it's been really tricky, and it's something I still struggle with now. So
Yeah. Sounds like it's taken a huge toll on your mental health.
yeah, big time.
In what ways would you say?
Um, I mean, towards the later part of my careers, I started having really bad anxiety attacks. Just crowded places. There's a couple of other events I worked at, subsequently led on to changing my mental health in different ways. But being in crowded places, I didn't like it. Always feeling trapped. Always felt like I couldn't ever escape. I mean, like we went to Olivia Dean last night, and I was like, shit, like I can't get out of this situation. We sat up in the top decks, and I was just like, I'm worried. But it's the coping mechanisms that I've learned and had to learn. This saved my life essentially. A couple of years ago, I was in a really bad place. Picked up the phone a couple of times and did really struggle. Kind of sitting in the living room with the curtains closed and thinking, what's it all for? And you know, to this day, like now, I think we live in a society where you've got to be okay all the time. You know, I still struggle. I still think sometimes, what's it all for? What's the purpose? Um, but yeah, I'd say going back early in my career, it's really had an impact on me. So yeah.
Yeah. I know earlier you mentioned that you still have some of those thoughts today and you still maybe experience some of those feelings that you had previously as well. What are the ones that are still with you today and how do you think you manage all of that?
They not feeling good enough is a big one. Like letting myself down. So yeah, let's say, I don't know, I'm training for instance and I decide just not to train that day. It's like I've let myself down. And then the follow on from that is, well, you're not good enough because you've just let yourself down. So it's like a vicious circle of always trying to make yourself feel like you are good enough and accepting the fact that you are you, and just because you're not as good as someone else doesn't mean you're not good enough for where you are in life, or you know what you're doing in life. Yeah, you know, some of the other things that I deal with, I still have panic attacks sometimes. I still get really, really flustered and I feel like out of control. Like I can't control the moment that I'm in. And so it makes me feel like powerless. Almost like I've just got to accept what's going on around me and I can't mold or shape that at all. So that kills me sometimes.
Through all of that, do you ever have moments where you actually like appreciate yourself and, you know, have moments where you kind of sit down and think, you know what, I actually like this about myself? Yeah.
You know, I think that's been a really hard one. And it's like, again, like just casting my mind back to last night to Olivia Dean, like it was more from my girlfriend, but we went and saw Olivia Dean and she said, you need to take a moment to love yourself. And that's something I've really struggled with, you know, feeling worthless, not feeling good enough, feeling inadequate. And I don't know, I could have won the lottery and I'd be like, sound, I've won the lottery. I wouldn't be like, oh my God, I've won the lottery. But every now and again, I have like moments of snippets of like emotion where I'm like, do you know what? You've actually done really well. And they're few and far between, but when I get them, it's like, you know, it makes me feel like top of the world for like, you know, 30 seconds, a minute, or like you've done something well, like well done you. And I'm just back to square one of, cool, it's done now. What's next, kind of thing. So you're always chasing that. But I'm always chasing that, you know, acceptance of myself, and it's something I've got to try and work on.
Yeah. I know that you're obviously still having your struggles today, but just from your story, it does seem like things have got better.
Yeah.
So would you say that you are hopeful that it will continue that way?
Yeah, I think, you know, being in a really good, stable situation has obviously really helped. Being in a solid relationship, leaving a job that wasn't good for me, and you know, you can create your own happiness, and it's about finding the moments that do make you happy and doing what makes you happy. You know, I look around London and I went for a coffee yesterday morning and I was walking past a bunch of people that were going to work and they're all wearing black suits and blue suits and I was wearing a red t-shirt and green shorts and I looked like a clown. I was like, I stand out so much yet. But I thought, do you know what, like they're probably just as miserable, if not more miserable. And for that brief moment, I was like, do you know what, life's actually quite good. You know, like I'm not rushing off to work right now. And yeah, it's just about allowing myself to be a little bit happier, I guess.
Yeah. What would you say makes you happy?
Riding my bike, the dogs, singing in the shower. Love singing in the shower. That's when I know I'm struggling, when I don't sing in the shower. That's when it's going bad. Being around the people I love, and you know, I recently shaved all my hair off and all my mates are like, God, you actually look really good, and I was so nervous about it, and like, that makes me happy. So yeah, I'm happy being bald. I don't have to worry about my hair all the time now.